So this evening, I'm going to be talking to everyone about what does it mean to be caring for our teenagers. In fact, this is a topic that is close to the heart of the organization that I work with. It's close to my heart as well. Um, I think young people keep us alive. They keep us on our toes and they keep us creative at all points of time. So, in brief, one of the reasons why the organization that I work with, Live Jam, why we do what we do is because we love hanging out, connecting with, and impacting young people. Young people are the pulse of this nation, this beautiful nation of India. And just this morning, I was on a Zoom, and we've heard this sentence so often that the young generation, the young people are the future. The future is now. You look around your cities, you look around your schools, your colleges, you look around, and it is young people everywhere. And it's teenagers everywhere as well. So, what does this mean for us as parents, as teachers, as caregivers? Older bhaiyas and didis, like as we say. What does it mean to really nurture and take care of our young people? So I'm going to go a little further. A little later, I'm going to show a couple of videos, but I'm just going to take us all through some learnings and establish a foundation. So this is the big picture. Now, many of us viewing this today, we're parents, we have one or two children. There are teachers watching this, they've got 40 in a classroom, little grids everywhere on a Zoom class, or maybe in real time, there's 40, 45. And yet this is the big picture that we are looking at in India. This is a census 2011 that overall, in for the purposes of this evening's discussion, between 10 to the age group 10 to 14 years, that's 11% of young people. 11% of India's young people are looking at us to see what the future is going to look like, and for their well-being, their social well-being, their emotional well-being. This is important because I think you can see, the entire, on the right hand side, there's this picture of a young girl. That is your Gen Z. And for the purposes of this evening's discussion, I'm going to be using the word Gen Z quite a bit. Those born, they're currently aged between 6 to 24. So all those of us who are, who have teenagers on hand, you're right in the thick of it. You're in the best place that you can possibly be. To give a little more further context to this, why should we prioritize this audience today evening? Well, there are statistics up there on the screen. We can all look at it. But essentially to say that 25% of teenagers today, they struggle with hopelessness. 96% are not very religious, but they follow traditions. And yes, 84% agree that their parents' support is present for their study or career choice on the assumption that they work really hard. So this is great, because young India is a very different young India than what all of us grew up in. This is an India that is complex. These young people have access. And yet, if you look at the picture on the right-hand side, this was a Google search that I quickly did just a couple of days ago, and just look at the immediate searches that come up on Google. There's teenagers and social media, COVID, sleep, mental health, technology, drugs, depression. So as much as there is promise, and there's incredible promise for this generation, the Gen Zs, there is also another side to them that we need to, as caregivers, that we need to recognize, and that we need to really harness and nurture them well. Just to quickly move on, this is an article that has come up in Vice India very recently, 10th of May. This is a little while after, in fact, at the peak of the second wave of COVID. And while on the one side we saw young people, they're at home, they were numb with shock, and these are some of the statistics and these responses that you're going to see on your screen. And yet there was the other side where young people, the Gen Zs, whether they are in high school or in college, the 18, 19-year-olds, the 17-year-olds saying that, hey, I can't do anything much right now. I'm at home. I'm seeing things going on around me, but I'm still going to use social media to help wherever I can. So that is the interesting dichotomy that we are faced with this evening. And amongst our young people, on the one side, there is an acute rise of depression, anxiety, fear, panic. That entire canvas, there is an acute rise of that. And yet on the other side, we have young people who are itching to do something with the tools that they have, and they are putting those tools to good use as well. So really, where does this take us to? um, Essentially, this is what we're looking at. Yes, parents and teachers are the primary caregivers. Most because of lockdown, work from home, school at home, young people, students, teenagers are spending all their time inside the four walls of their house, and a bulk of their time is spent online with teachers. Whatever limited interaction they are able to have with their classmates or with their teachers. And yet, for the Indian teenager, the primary caregiver still stays as the parents and the teachers. Then what is the problem that we have? Why is there on the one side hopelessness, worry, anxiety, and yet on the other side there is a fair bit of optimism, a fair bit of push for a hopeful, for a better future? There is a connection problem. And that is where the parents and teachers really can, think of ways. And this evening I'd like to talk a little bit about that. Think of ways of how they can enter that conversation better. In brief, our teenagers have multiple choices. Trust me, they can go to Google and they can get ideas, advice, solutions to navigate life and to get and for decisions. Interestingly, they honor parents and they honor teachers, but it's the friend circle. It's the friends who are the guides. It's the friends who are the go-to. There's one of the easiest examples I think of is brands like Airtel. They came up with these amazing marketing campaigns that, about friends, that are around us. They are the ones who really hold us together. And interestingly, young people today, they can smell the lack of authenticity. For young people these days, Gen Z especially, authenticity is up there. They care about things like climate change. They care about things like, injustice against women. They care about the big causes of the world. They care about their city streets as well. That is the interesting complexity of this generation. And when they see or they're able to smell the lack of authenticity, they will speak up and they will give us a hard time. So then the question is, we have before us the challenge. What do we do with this challenge? Before I give the solution, before I present what could be a solution, I'd like to take a few minutes more and just maybe give us some ideas about the audience that we have. The young people, the Gen Z, they are digital nomads and they are digital agents of change. You present them a problem and they will create, if it's something that requires a petition, they will go to change.org and they will create a petition. They know how to use social media, real estate to the best of their ability. They can create a campaign. They can get the conversation rolling about a particular topic. If they are passionate about it, they're going to start the conversation. They can make a game out of something. They can make it exciting. They can make it engaging. They can make it interactive. Now, what does this look like? I thought I would just show some interesting memes, some interesting, ideas over here as we understand this age group, understand Gen Zs. We're familiar with memes. We love memes. It definitely gives us, a laugh every time it comes on WhatsApp or Instagram or Facebook. But these memes have also become something that Gen Z they become so fluent in that. It's become their language. And I believe this evening, as caregivers, as parents, as teachers, as mentors, it's essential that we understand, how did memes become so popular with this generation? This generation is one of the most complex. They are also one of the most creative. They are content creators. I saw a meme a few moments ago saying that I'm no more just an influencer, I'm a content creator. And so this generation, they can create memes. They have a language of sass and irony and sarcasm. Why? To deal or to act as a defense mechanism against what's happening in the world around them. It's very interesting that even as the last 18 months of lockdown have shown us that even though they've been at home, there's been a spurt of creativity. You've seen more indie music come up. You've seen more YouTube channels of young people putting out music, or even cooking things at home, and they're putting up all of this on YouTube, on Instagram. It's interesting also that there's a huge increase in the amount of consumption of music. Music has helped young people deal with mental health concerns. When anxiety strikes, when panic or fear strikes, it's music, it's actually audio. So it's interesting, if you look at this statistic in front of us, according to a Spotify 2020 study, 79% of Gen Zs believe that audio is healing. And there's been a massive spike in music and podcast creation and consumption. Some interesting for all the parents and teachers out here, if you're familiar with terms like Olivia Rodrigo, mukbang, BTS, Insta Reels, tell me you're a desi without telling me you're a desi. These are all trending things that young people are, they're talking about, they're doing it, they're putting it up on socials, they're even participating with their friends online. Gamers are a whole community. And the interesting thing is that young people are talking to each other, and they're connecting with a wide global audience, looking to alleviate emotions of loneliness, anxiety, or fear through all these methods and means of communication. I have one more interesting slide. This is, you think that this is, maybe not commenting about the aesthetics of the slide, but would you believe that this is from an Instagram feed, which has pretty much, each of these images pretty much has like over 1,000, 2,000 likes. That is how popular these memes are. And it's interesting, as caregivers, I think it's important that we take a moment to understand what these memes are actually telling us. If you look at the second row, bottom left, it says, "Father and I have a healthy bond." That speaks volumes about a young person's desire for a good relationship with their parent. And another one, another interesting one is the one on the top row in the center. "I am not wasting my life away." You think, it's a very cliched background. It's got some tea there, and there's some flowers, and there's tranquil waters. But the reality of the young person is that they've been inside the home, and they've not been able to hang out with friends. They've not been able to have those casual conversations on the playground. And yes, it does therefore seem that they are maybe wasting their life away. Similarly, you look at the second row. "I will not blame planets for my toxic behavior." That is such an interesting comment on how they would want to do something about the climate change issue. "I am debating society president." That's such a hilarious take on how so many schools have focused on debating society, the drama society, etc., and how those labels become markers of belonging for young people. And in this day and age, many of those markers are not as real-time available for young people. In which case, then, what are we looking at? We're looking at an opportunity. All right. This is an opportunity presented before us as teachers, as parents. All this that we have seen, whether it's the memes, whether it's the sad music, whether it's the angry music, whether it's the music that has talked about pent-up frustrations, lack of relationships, etc. This presents to us an opportunity that young people, the Gen Zs, our teenagers, they long to belong, right? The intrinsic desire. Couple of things that our organization, as we've done our programs, our sessions, and I have been in conversation with young people, personal conversations that I have had as well. They've just revealed the deep-seated desire of a young person, of a teenager, to belong. Am I safe here? Will my conversation, will what I speak, will it be heard? Will it be judged? Am I safe to say what is on my heart? Will it stay within the confines of this conversation, or is it going to find its way out? Young people, they have an innate desire, an ache to belong. And I believe for many of us adults sitting over here, that still remains an innate desire as well. And they want to experience real, authentic connection to themselves. That's the first connection they are deeply desire. That connection that comes because they are just feeling so adrift in one sense. The things that mark their everyday life, that used to mark their everyday life, that don't really exist anymore. A lot of the world right now is digital. It's hard to go out and meet a friend, to just hang out and chill out. And so they long to have a connection with themselves, with their loved ones, and eventually their purpose. Now, all of this sounds great. But before I go further, I want to tell you a little bit about how it is that, that we have, I wouldn't say we've cracked a formula, but something that really has come out of our years of experience of working with young people, of having conversations with them. First step, really getting down to their level and beginning to understand that what it is that they want. Very often as teachers or as parents or as mentors, we come to them and say, hey, this is what you need to be doing. Here's the advice I have to give you. And to some extent, it's true, they do need our advice, they do look to us for solutions. But perhaps a different way to begin the conversation with them, and I'll touch upon these a little later as well, will be to say, what can I do for you? A couple of minutes ago, we heard from another speaker, and just the entire sense of giving the young person, giving the learner, giving the student, the teenager, the autonomy to speak up in a conversation and say, hey, I need help. This is the issue I'm facing. This is what, can you help me in this regard? And kind of really beginning an authentic, real conversation from that perspective. Something that we've come to realize is just creatively connecting with young people through music, through art, through even social media, through memes, inviting them into conversations to co-create with us, to just hang out and engage with them, to just spend chill time with them. These are incredible icebreakers, incredible conversation starters with teenagers, especially with teenagers. So where does all of this take us to? Okay, so this is something that I would like to, I would like to present and for all of us to consider this evening. As a parent, as a teacher, as a mentor figure, as an older person in the teenager's life, probably the first thing that we can begin to give them, and this comes free of cost, is that we can give them a safe place to be. That's it. The first thing is that they belong. That no matter how badly they mess up, many of our young people are struggling maybe with issues of pornography, abuse. They're struggling with being left out, loneliness and isolation. And they don't know how to articulate some of these emotional upheavals in their life. Many young people will come to us. They may want to say things like, I'm sad all the time and I don't know why. Questions like, am I capable of being loved? I'm unable to live up to my parents' expectations, and that has ruined my confidence. It's these kind of statements, these heartbreaking statements that have come to us, that are there in the hearts of many teenagers. And the first thing that we can do as caregivers, parents and teachers, older people, is number one, to give them a safe place to belong. It's interesting. I'd like to say that very often our schooling structures, our family structures, and generally our society structures reverse it. They tell us that you need to believe a certain thing. Once you believe this, the credo, the motto, these ethics, these kind of ways, then you begin to behave accordingly. And then finally, you qualify to belong. You qualify to belong in a particular community, in a particular family, in a particular school or institution. This reverses it. You see, because young people, there's in one sense a fragmentation of identity. So no matter how badly they have messed up, no matter how worried or anxious or uncertain that they feel about the future, the first thing is that we enable them to realize, and we create intentionally a safe place for them to belong. What does that look like? I will talk about that a few minutes later. The next step is to behave. Now, here's the interesting thing. I'd like to say it in one sentence. It's more about what is caught than what is taught. Young people, even older people, I would say, but especially teenagers, because their minds are incredibly, they can pick up things that others are just, adults are sort of immune now to not see or to see. So if you expect them to behave a certain way, if you want them to speak up for, to speak up for injustice, if you want them to be productive, you want them to, interact with fellow students, with fellow teenagers, or with fellow family members, or even with teachers in a particular way, then they're going to have to see it demonstrated first. It's not enough if it just comes in a rule book. So when they see it demonstrated, the fact is that they already belong. They know that this is a space created for them, that they're not going to be judged. They're okay. They're safe over there. As they find their place of nurture, their place of nourishment there, they see what's happening around them. They pick up on these amazing behavior patterns that are already being demonstrated. And they're like, hey, okay, so this person's doing this pretty well. Let me also try it out. And they automatically begin to, they begin to copy that. And the third stage is they believe. At this point of time, it's no more just about that these are a certain code of ethics. This is what you need to understand. This is what you need to believe in. This is the rule book. Here's what you need to understand. No, at this point of time, because they know that they are safe. They've begun to behave a certain way. They're invited to pattern themselves after certain kinds of behavior. Here is where they have an invitation to trust in the thoughts and ideas, in the family, in the school circle, that the teacher is sharing as well, that the teacher demonstrates as well. There is an invitation to trust. When there is an invitation to trust, and they have seen even the people around them, the primary caregivers, being their authentic selves, they are at a place to be able to even replicate those belief systems as well. That is when there is a coherence, if I can put it that way, between what they have seen and therefore behave, and therefore what they are able to believe as well, and perhaps even able to replicate for their peers, for their influence, for the circles of influence that they are in, and even as they go older and as they grow further. So this is kind of the three big ideas, of belong, behave, believe. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, this sounds great, Ashwini. How do we navigate this, right? This is probably the big piece right here. I've given a few ideas, some tips on the how, and I'd love to also tell a couple of minutes in, and I'll tell you a little bit about some things, that amazing content that LiveJam has to offer to help take this conversation forward. But probably one of the first things that that teachers and parents can do as they help young people is to listen well, right? Listening well is crucial. Listening well does not just mean that you make time around it. It definitely means that you make time around the dining table, you sit down and have those conversations, but actually you listen not just to reply, but you listen to the teenager in order to understand. You listen to them, you see their dignity, you see beyond the mess of their lives. Whether when your teenager comes to you and says, hey, I'm struggling with anxiety, I'm struggling with fear, the first response is not, I don't think you should be feeling that way. What do you have to worry about? I'm the one dealing with, with the salary issues and all of that. A response like that immediately tells the young person, the teenager, that their concerns are not important enough. Another thing is, when you're listening well, you listen to empathize. You really put, the parent or the teacher puts themselves in the shoes of the young person, and kind of actually says that, hey, at one point of time, I was a teenager, and I probably went through some kind of emotions like this, and can I be the person for this teenager in front of me to come and share their concerns? So really listening well, listening with your eyes and your ears, listening actually not to criticize. And the next thing is the awkward conversations. This is super important. Young people these days, our teenagers, they want to have the difficult conversations. There's this phrase, are you woke enough? And many parents and teachers might think that, do I need to be? Well, here's the interesting thing. If you want your teenager to come to you, for them to know that you're a safe place, that you actually can help guide them on issues and topics that they don't immediately have to go to Google about or to their friends about, then you need to be the one to begin those awkward conversations. So if that means talking about issues of pornography, issues of maybe even spending too much time on the phone or on front of the laptop, or just watching too much of too much of Netflix time, maybe even conversations about LGBTQ. And if you don't know, then parents or teachers, learn. Just pick up those resources, pick up those materials, go ahead, learn about them, and then begin that conversation. Trust me, your teen will thank you. It's highly likely that your teenager will go and tell his or her friends that, hey, guess what, I've already had this conversation, it was explained so well, it makes sense now. And they probably, and if those who are struggling are probably even enabled to be on a path of recovery. Another thing that I keep talking about is to know their lingo, right? There are things like a couple of minutes ago, I used the word, are you woke enough? What does it mean to have FOMO? What does it mean? Why do they talk in hashtags? It's not enough for us just to say that, hey, I'm their parent, I'm their teacher, I don't really need to know. But guess what? When you make the effort to know, you actually understand that they are communicating. And they are communicating what they want, even if it's through sass or slang. And here's the thing, when you get to know their lingo, they begin to figure that, hey, you care. And that actually enables better conversations, better listening as well. Last two pieces is to model the habit. You want them to be better listeners or readers or helpers. Then the big piece is that you need to model it consistently for them. For example, if you say that, I wish my teen were to read more, or maybe that they would just listen to different kinds of things, then maybe perhaps you be the first one to pick up a book and sit down and do it consistently. If you're a teacher and you're watching this and you're just thinking, my students they just want to pick up their text only when there's an exam coming up or something, maybe a fun thing for you to try would be challenge them to make an Instagram reel about the class, about some topic of their class. And that just brings up their entire creative juices as well, because Gen Z, these teenagers, they are co-creators. They are collaborative learners. For them, it is not just about, it's not just the one-way teaching, it's how they can learn together. And you put it to song, you put it to story, you put it to music. I'm telling you, they're going to be on fire to be able to even talk about what they learn in the classroom as well. If you want them to even help around the house, parents, maybe the simple thing to do would be to say, hey, take them along with you, bring them into the place when you're preparing dinner or you're doing something in a meal, you get them into the kitchen and try out a recipe together. That way you model it, you engage, and you invite them into those activities in a fun and creative way. Yes, it takes a little bit of effort, but I believe that these are incredible days that we can actually begin to put some of these things into practice. And coming to the last one, and probably one of the most important ones for the parents and the teachers, is self-care. You're taking a lot of care of young people, and that can definitely tire you, or maybe even drain you emotionally, mentally as well. So the first thing, and oftentimes the most important thing that you would need to do, is make time, really make time for your own self, investing into your own emotional health, investing into your own mental health. When teenagers see you do that, when they see you putting closing your laptops, taking intentional time off from work and saying, I'm just going to just enjoy myself for a bit, I'm just going to relax with the family, they're going to know that, hey, this is because mom, dad, they really care about their own mental and emotional health. And that is one of the most important pieces for young people in India as they get into the next couple of years of their life, knowing that the mental health issue is soon going to be one of the biggest shadow pandemics as a result of the COVID pandemic that we've just come out of. So these are some of the big, broad, tips I've presented this evening. Even as I kind of wrap up, I just want to show a video and to just tell you all about some products that LiveJam has, my organization has, which really are there to kind of take this conversation forward. These are tools for schools and for parents, for teachers and parents, to be able to kickstart a conversation with young people. So give me one moment and I'm just going to go ahead and screen share that video. Okay, so here we go.
Some days the pain's so bad you can't even sing about it. Some days the pain's so bad you can't even talk about it. And if pain is a boat, would you take me home? Take me home.
All right, so that was one video, and I'd love to show one more and call it a wrap for this evening before I just present, the information that video will also share about how to get in touch with us. But this last video is a bit longer, and this is an incredible tool to be able to actually, for parents and for teachers, in really learning the art of listening well to young people. There are skills and tools that are so useful in this regard. And if you could just go ahead and maybe you could watch this next video for about a minute, you'll be able to see for yourself what that could look like.
Hello and welcome. Have you ever heard any of these statements? Mom, Dad, why don't you ever listen to me? Could you drop me an email or send me a text? I'm sorry, I just don't really have the time to listen to that right. My husband just doesn't listen to me. I'm just so tired. Sounds familiar? We have become a society and culture that are very good at speaking up. And in the course of speaking up, we've begun to listen a little less. Do you know that there are 3 key elements to good listening? This 6-part video series is going to bring you fresh perspective and important skills that you need to become a good listener. You will notice a significant impact in your personal relationships and even in your wider community relationships, whether it is your workplace, your friend circle, or your community. You will learn 3 key steps based on powerful principles of being a good listener, how to overcome hurdles to good listening, and even how to practice these skills in your immediate circle and in your wider circle to minister to those in need. Ready? Let's go. See you in class.
All right, so that brings us to pretty much the close of this segment about just talking about the well-being of young people, of teenagers. There's a lot more I've had in this amount of time. I hope I've been able to present some of the core ideas of why our young people, they respond the way they do, the incredible potential within them, and the amazing work that us as caregivers have for this young generation. Thank you once again, Rob, and thank you to the team as well for giving this opportunity.